Welcome to the Hockey Huddle, the ultimate podcast for hockey fans by hockey fans, where we break down the latest on and off ice from power plays to game-changing trades. Whether you're a diehard fan or new to the sport, we've got all the action, analysis, and hot takes you'll need to stay in the game. We'll bring you exclusive interviews with other fans, weekly breakdowns, and everything you need to know from the NHL and beyond. So lace up your skates, grab your stick, and let's drop the puck on today's episode of the Hockey Huddle.
Welcome back, everybody. Here we go for episode 4 of the Hockey Huddle podcast with Hunter and Hogan.
Oh, yeah.
We also have to start off with the Nylander update. Alexander Nylander has played 7 games with the Toronto Marlies, and he is on pace to shatter all records. He's got 5 goals and 2 assists, so he's got a point per game. And remember that bet Rick and I have that Alexander Nylander at some point is going to be playing with William Nylander this season. And it's going to be whatever Tim Horton points that we have is what's on the line. The other thing
I hope you have a lot of points. I hope you have so many points.
Oh, I have way too many points, so I don't know if I should have done that. I have like 6,200 points. I'm going to have to start using some. But I have a lot of points. We go to, again, we don't have a sponsor yet, but we go every single day. The only day we don't go is Christmas, and we buy an extra one on Christmas Eve so we can warm it up the next day. We are addicted to the Java, let's just say.
Well, I've been skunked by the app the past couple of days, and I had thought I picked some winners. Actually, my sister and I picked the same picks yesterday. Tough day. I was on a 6-day heater, and I think I'm up to 1,399 points right now, none of which you're going to get because Alex Nylander is never going to play on a line with William Nylander. I'm very happy you have 6,000 some odd points. That's great for me.
Well, and the funny thing is, you know who he's not going to play with either is Ty Domi, which I said in episode 3, that the line is going to be Ty Domi, William Nylander, and Alexander Nylander. So maybe Max Domi. Yeah.
Max Domi seems more realistic. Hey, it'd be awesome to have Ty Domi. Let's bring Ty Domi back. Let's do it.
We can do that. For the father and son game, maybe that'll happen.
That's right, yeah.
Right? Hey, I do have a story, and I'm not really sure how it's going to happen, but last night I'm watching the Leaf game, and I'm starting to feel a little bit of shock, disbelief, and confusion while I'm watching the game against St. Louis. Then I started blaming my friends for the reasons why things were happening. Like my friend was sitting on the left-hand side of the couch. He was supposed to be on the right-hand side of the couch. It wasn't working out. I started to get a little mad. Then I started feeling guilty. I started making deals with myself and with the hockey god, saying something like, please, we just need 1 bounce. Give us 1 bounce. That's all we need. We can get back in this game. Then I felt kind of tired and helpless, and I can't get in there, and I felt isolated. I went up by myself in the corner for a bit, and then after the game, I acknowledged the loss, and I was prepared to move on to the next game. You know what that means, guys? That's the stages of grief or loss, and as a Leaf fan, unfortunately, we go through them all the time. Speaking of losers, let's talk about the Philadelphia Flyers.
What an amazing segue into the Philadelphia Flyers. We're excited to bring you our first fan interview, and our first fan interview is a huge Philadelphia Flyers fan. So without any further ado, here's a few moments with us, with Barry, who is a big Philadelphia Flyers fan.
Welcome, Barry.
Hey, we're really excited to have our very first fan interview here on the Hockey Huddle podcast, and really excited to have Barry join us today. Barry is a guy I've known for a little while since I've been here in Alberta. Big-time hockey fan and a big-time Flyers fan. So, Barry, welcome to the Hockey Huddle podcast.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate you guys having me on this morning.
I noticed that you're rocking some Flyers gear there, and we won't judge you for that.
Yeah.
We'll try not to edit that out in the post-production, but we've had some great hockey conversations, and tell us,
Rick, sorry,
yeah,
before we get started,
go ahead.
What are you wearing, dude? What is on your body?
Oh, well, I have got I'm rocking my San Jose Sharks jersey today, and specifically my Brent Burns San Jose Sharks jersey. I'll tell you a story about that a little bit later. I had a chance to meet Brent Burns, and we had got some photos with him. He's a big fan of some sports that I'm a fan of, and we got a chance to meet him, took some photos. And if you don't know, Brent Burns is about 13 feet tall, and I've got a photo with him and my son my fourth son, I have 5 sons, my fourth son, who at the time was about 3 feet tall, and I couldn't get them all in the frame, and I had to like turn the whole thing. But I'll tell you the Brent Burns story just a little bit later. So, but Barry,
Very
you're
cool.
a Flyers fan.
Yeah. Flyers fan, but just a quick Brent Burns story. Just
Yeah.
for a guy to play his entire junior career as a forward and then come into the league and be that good of a defenseman, like be a top tier defenseman in the NHL, is just incredible all by itself.
Crazy, right? Like, and the guy, like
Yeah.
he's what I know about Brent Burns, and he's not best friends like John Tavares and I are best friends. But Brent Burns is like he treats himself like his body like a temple, and the guy works out hard, and even later in his career, the guy was a beast in the gym and really took care of his body and just making sure he was in like peak condition. And that's the key to longevity, I think, for him and how he was so excellent so long in the league. And just honestly, like a classy dude, like such a nice guy to talk to. And I have nothing but great things to say with this guy. Had all the time in the world for the fans. Love that guy.
And so many funny stories too. Like he's a reptile connoisseur.
Yeah.
He left on a road trip and got a new alligator and put it in the family's tub, and then left the family to deal with it while he went away on a road trip. There's some crazy stories out there with Brent Burns.
If he wasn't a multimillionaire, I'm sure there'd be a lot more explaining to do.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've always been I've always appreciated the Flyers from the days of the Broad Street Bullies. Never been a Flyers fan, but I've always appreciated them, and they've had some killer players in their teams over the years. And this year I saw Calgary and Philly play this year, and Philly didn't look great. They've got one guy on their team, but Travis Konechny. But honestly, they haven't looked good this year.
No, they're in a rebuild, and it's tough. I don't think even they thought it was going to be as tough as it is, maybe, but. They do have that one McCoff, or that young kid, that rookie, and he's lighting it up. He just in October he won the October Rookie of the Month. He outscored all rookies, so he's exciting to watch and creating a lot of buzz, probably since the Lindros days in and around Philly. And I love how Tortorella's dealing with him too. Like this guy's not the savior of the team. He's just a hockey player here, and he's protecting him. So it looks like they're bringing him along the right way.
What a great coach too! I got a ton of respect for John Tortorella too, and I love as much as he is a little bit brash and he just kind of says it how it is. I kind of like how he says it how it is, and I think that's some of the hockey talk you and I have had is look at him stand up for his players and his people and celebrate like, hey, these guys aren't the most skilled, but man, they work so hard.
Yeah,
and I think
100%.
I was just going to say, and I think last year was almost a mistake how well they did to almost making the playoffs right up to the last 2 weeks of the season, right? So it was a surprise, and that was just, well, not just, but mainly because of Tortorella. Like, what a great coach, man.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's got everybody playing for him and playing for one another, and he's doing a great job with those young kids.
Yeah, lots of promise there. I think like it's kind of like Calgary, where Calgary's also they're punching above their weight right now. Like they shouldn't be where they are in the standings, and they've got a lot of kids coming up, and those kids have looked good.
Yeah, they have. One thing that I would like to say about Tortorella too, we have the chance here, just the class move that he did with the Goudreau family. The Goudreau family is from that Philadelphia area, and for him, he was the first one to reach out and to get the family involved and get dad out to practice, and that started with John Tortorella. So again, just to me, that's hockey culture. That's hockey taking care of its community, and that's what it's always been about for me, and I love seeing that kind of stuff.
Just a class move, classy. And we talked about Kevin Hayes too. Like, look at what he did with Kevin Hayes.
Absolutely, stuck up to him with that reporter and made sure that the story was set straight, and I think the guys just absolutely love that about him. They know that Tortorella's got their back.
I think it's cool too. Like he also says it how it is. Like I'm not taking any more questions from you. You affected this guy's life and family. Good for you, not a boy.
Yeah.
And that's going to send a clear message. And yeah,
I do have one favorite thing about Philadelphia, guys. Just before we get into it, and it's probably going to definitely come up as Barry's probably top 5 for sure, was from 1982 to 1983, the Cooperalls. Like, what a great setup they were, right? If you're a lazy hockey player and you wanted to look sleek, sleep in before the game or practice, just slide right into those Cooperalls. They look sexy. What happened to those, buddy?
Well, it was Philadelphia, and it was the Hartford Whalers.
Yeah, Hartford Whalers, yeah.
They were the two teams that wore the Cooperalls back in the day.
Those things
not a good look.
No. So growing up as a kid, I definitely had a season where I wore Cooperalls because I thought it was the coolest thing ever, because there was a couple of teams that wore Cooperalls, and I was the only loser wearing Cooperalls in my entire league. And I remember putting them on and getting out there and like, oh yeah, all kinds of people are going to have these. No, I was the only idiot wearing Cooperalls.
Yeah, or parachute pants, if you will.
What's that?
Or parachute pants, if you will. They look very similar, right? So if you wanted to be cool, you're wearing Cooperalls or parachute pants in the 80s for sure.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
How'd you start as a Philly fan? Like, what happened? Like, what happened to you? Did you get hurt, or like, did somebody hit you? What happened?
No, I think it was Ron Hextall coming into the league. My favorite player of all time is Cam Neely. So I was kind of a Bruins fan. I was also a Bruins fan at that time because my dad was a Montreal Canadiens fan. So I did it just kind of get under his skin a lot of times with the Bruins. And then Ron Hextall came into the league, and Philly went on a run there against the Oilers in the 80s, in 85 and 87. And they had guys like Tim Kerr and Brian Propp and Mark Howe, and that's when I became a Flyers fan, and I've just been a lifelong Flyers fan since then.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's some legends. Jason and I have talked about the Legion of Doom before, and I think that was, when I was playing hockey in my, kind of early teens, Eric Lindros was the guy. Like, Wendell Clark was kind of my idol all through my hockey playing years, but when Lindros came around, Team Canada, Eric Lindros, and, the guy was just, he was next level. Like, he was a generational talent, and unfortunately, his career didn't last as long as probably it should have, but, man, what a player.
No, but when you look at his points per game and how he dominated, especially when you talk about that Legion of Doom line with himself and John LeClaire and Michael Renberg, there was not a more dominating line. It took them all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals in 1987. Now you need 4 lines to win a Stanley Cup. Back then, it was that one line that led the way. And they came up short, but man, were they fun to watch.
It's funny you say that. It's definitely the 4-line teams that make it to the Cup Finals now. It's not, it's not like, hey, I've got Gretzky, Mario, Yager. These guys aren't taking me all the way to the Cup anymore. It definitely is. And, hey, Matthew Tkachuk probably carried that team on his back a little bit, but the greatest hockey player of our current time, like I would say Connor McDavid, is the best player maybe in hockey history. He couldn't carry a team all the way to the final into the Cup, like to put his name on the Cup, because they just didn't have enough depth. And he carried that team into the final. He dragged them kicking and fighting, but it didn't equal their name on the Cup, right? It was a 4-line effort by Florida to get there.
And again, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that 2/3 of the Legion of Doom also went on to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs. In 2001 to 2004, Michael Renberg really sparked the Leafs back possibly to the Stanley Cup. That never happened. And Lindros came in for that one season, and I was talking to you guys a little bit earlier. Best friend of mine, his name's Clay, huge Philadelphia Flyers fan. And the best thing that could have ever happened to me was Eric Lindros coming back home to Toronto. He hated that worse than anything.
Watch.
Do you remember the very first shootout ever in the NHL? Do you remember that at all?
I can't say I do.
I'm going to test your memory. So the very first shootout, when they introduced the shootout rule, so, overtime it goes to a shootout, the very first player, and we might have to edit this out if I'm wrong, is the very first shooter in the shootout ever was Michael Renberg. And Michael Renberg got to just over the blue line or top of the circle and hammered a clapper from the parking lot at the goalie. And the goalie watched it hit him and it bounced off. Like it just kind of bounced off, and nothing ever happens. And you see I can't remember who the coach of the Leafs was at the time. And you see the coach of the Leafs like this.
It's
What was going on?
He was sending a message. He was sending a message.
Yeah, it may have been Randy Carlisle if I'm remembering correctly. And the look on Carlisle's face was like, "Oh my God, turn the cameras off, please. I don't. This is ridiculous."
just that when Dad doesn't say anything, when he's just disappointed, but he just doesn't say anything.
Just disappointed. Oh my God. Yeah.
Shakes his head.
I'm gonna have to go back and check that one and maybe do a little bit of research just to make sure that that's actually what happened. But that is my favorite memory of Michael Remberg, if that's the case. All right. Well, hang on one sec. We're gonna edit.
Okay, so I have something for Barry if you're ready, Barry.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, ready and go.
So for the most part, Barry, would you say that the Pittsburgh Penguins would be the biggest rival of the Philadelphia Flyers? Who is your biggest rival for the Flyers? Because it's not always the same. For example, I truly hate a certain team. I won't say it rhymes with Canadians, but that's not always the biggest foe of the Leafs, right? At different times it was Boston, Ottawa. Who is your biggest rival for the Philadelphia Flyers?
Honestly, it's the Islanders. The Islanders have been so good and so underrated for a while, and every time Philly goes up against them, it hasn't come out well. So they've been a tough team to go against, but definitely that Philadelphia-Pittsburgh rivalry. That's when neither of the teams are playing well. They always seem to step up, and that always seems to be an entertaining game, just like it would be with Toronto, Montreal, or Calgary, Edmonton. Wherever those teams are in the standings, whenever they play for each other, they get up for one another, and it's always an entertaining game to watch.
Yeah, that makes sense because a lot of times it was, like I said, the Canadians and the Leafs, but it was actually really Ottawa, Toronto. So that's why I wanted to ask you that question because a true fan definitely has a different kind of insight to what team they really hate.
Yeah, and the Islanders are easy to hate.
There you go. I agree.
Any team from New York is easy to hate. Yankees, Rangers, doesn't matter. Hate them all. Hey,
What about the Devils?
Yeah, hate them too.
There you go.
It's pretty much the New York Devils. Hey Barry, so you're kind of a legend in the town you live in hockey. So you do a lot with the stories we hear about you walking around town.
Yeah.
So you're very involved in hockey in Airdrie, Alberta. You do a lot of coaching, and I think you actually coach with a former NHL player as well.
I did for a number of years. We coached in the quadrant hockey, and it was just an unbelievable experience. It was also a lot of fun and learned a ton. That we were coaching at a level where we actually went through and drafted our players and selected our players. So that was an experience in itself, and just the doors that it opened, getting us into being able to work with things like the AB Cup and those other extracurricular stuff that the coaching led to was just a real great experience for me.
And you've coached some guys that are in the show today.
Yeah, I don't know if we're naming names or not, but two players that I have coached throughout the years have both made it to the NHL, and it's incredible to know that you're a cog in a ladder on the way, and did have some sort of impact, or hopefully had some sort of impact in their careers getting there.
Yeah, that's cool. It's very cool when you see somebody that you've worked with personally, and they achieve some amazing success. So that's pretty cool. It's also a nice feather in the coach's cap.
It is. It's definitely humbling for sure, and you know the work that you put in behind the scenes, and so it makes it kind of all worth it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hey, Barry.
Well, hey, I think no. Yeah,
sorry, I had one more question. So, would you find that there's something different with some of the players that you coached that you can kind of tell how they're going to do later on in their career? Is there something that kind of separates them from some of the other hockey players whether it be mental or physical or preparation? Is there something that separates those players?
I would say absolutely there is. I know in the case of the one kid that has gone on to play within the NHL and with the World Juniors as well. He kept a diary, and he would note everything in there from what he ate that day to kind of his routines, and he knew when he had played a good game, hey, these were the things that led me to success, and when I didn't do so well, these are some of the things, so I want to eliminate that. Again, one of those kids that sounds really cliche, but he was a goaltender, and usually the goaltenders like to take their time getting out onto the ice, but he was the first one out onto the ice, and he would play rebound with the guys, so it would be 13 on 0, and they would just shoot and hit rebounds until they could finally score on him. And if they did get a goal on him, his competitive level, he wouldn't have a temper tantrum, but he would get heated, and that would just spark him to have an even better practice. And then he stayed on the ice until the practice ended. So that dedication and that hard work. Just to tell a real quick story, I don't know if this will stay in here or not, but Gary Player was a golfer, and he said, everyone wants to be a professional golfer, professional hockey player, but they don't know what it takes to be able to do that. And for Gary Player, it used to be driving the ball until the palms of his hands bled. Like, that's a next level dedication that I'm not saying some of these kids have, but some of these individuals need to reach that level.
Wow. That's a different kind of person.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you joining us, and it's exciting to have our first fan interview, and we're running out of time here, but really appreciate your insights, and it was awesome to have you on.
I appreciate you guys having me on, and all the best of luck with your guys' podcast. Jason, it was nice meeting you, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Awesome,
hey,
guys.
buddy, and if I can steal your voice, I would love to do that, because you got the voice, man. Wow. Great voice for radio and TV, buddy. Both.
Did you say he's got a face for? You said he has a face for radio or a voice for radio?
No, a voice for both radio and TV. It's that good.
Well, I appreciate that, guys. That was fun. I enjoyed it.
I really want to thank Barry for his time, and really appreciate having him on the pod, and exciting to have our first fan interview. We're going to try and get a fan interview every single pod we do, and that's really what we are. We're hockey fans talking about hockey with hockey fans, and that's kind of what that's what our chat is about, us just chatting about hockey with you, the fans, and we'd love to hear from you. We do have some social media set up, which we'll talk about at the end. It is up and ready and live, and we're looking to have lots of time and interviews with fellow fans, and just sitting here shooting the breeze talking about hockey. Jay, you were talking about some superstitions, and your friend didn't sit on the right side of the couch, and they were supposed to be on the left. And my sisters are quickly becoming, or have become, big Maple Leafs fans, and I'm gonna make a couple of call outs here. So my sister Christy is a very cerebral hockey fan. Understands the stats, and we've been in some hockey pools together, and makes really good picks, like smart picks. And so her son the other day did something that really helped the Leafs win. And the Leafs were playing against Winnipeg, and it was, you're up against a tough matchup with Winnipeg. They're undefeated, and I think it was my sister Kelsey who had put it out there that said, "Hey, we need to change the mojo. Something's going on. We need to do something." I suggested rally caps, so my sister Christy put her son in a rally cap, and lo and behold, 6-4 win. So these superstitions, while they may seem ridiculous, they're real. They work. It's a real thing. So if you've got to put your rally cap on, you got to wear your jersey inside out, don't wash your socks for a month, whatever it is, we need to change this mojo, because the Leafs are not looking good. And there was a couple of good points in the game, a couple of good spots in the game against the Jets. And one of my favorites was Matthews was forechecking Pionk in the Jets defensive end. And Pionk sees Matthews coming at him, and he just kind of decides to get lazy behind the net. And Matthews goes in and takes his lunch money. He just takes just attacks him, takes his puck away. And you see Pionk standing there like, what just happened? I just had my pocket picked. And why in the world would you underestimate Austin Matthews, who is in the top 3 of greatest hockey players in today's era? Why would you not be so defensive and guarded and trying to move the puck away from this guy? Instead, you're thinking, I can take this guy on. No, you can't. He owned you. He took your lunch money. He picked your pocket, took the puck away, laughed at you as he did it, and you standing there holding your equipment going, oh, what just happened? Unfortunately, it turns into nothing. But Austin Matthews does it all. The problem is, where is Austin Matthews on the score sheet? Where
It's
are
true.
the goals?
Well, you know what? I think a lot of times if you look back at stats, and we do this, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but every October we want to trade every single player on the Maple Leafs. Obviously, they're not doing anything that they should be. They don't deserve to be Maple Leafs. And then as we start to roll into November, everything kind of starts to come together. The lines start to flow, the goals start to come, the wins happen. So I think a lot of times it takes a little bit of time for a team to gel, especially when you've changed so many different pieces throughout the team. Now we got a new coach, new assistant coaches, new power play setup, which is not working. However, they were definitely listening to the podcast for podcast 3 where they did change it up, and they now have 2 different setups, and they looked great, but they shouldn't get away with it, which because they reverted back to the original one at the end of that St. Louis game.
Well, let's talk about Tree Living really quickly, because clearly he's listening to the podcast, and we'll talk about the Liljegren trade, little Jurgen trade, a little bit later.
Absolutely. And the other thing is I wanted to, if you haven't seen it, this right here was a birthday present for my son. I sent him a clip of our new Hockey Huddle, and for my birthday present, he got me the sweatshirt. So cool. Amazing. Merch, right? Unbelievable.
Look at you go. Hey, you know, one of the things that you're talking about, the Leafs and kind of getting the lines to mesh, and in the game against St. Louis, they took that second line apart, and you got Pacioretty, Tavares, and Nylander together on that second line, and just again, as a fan, the frustration of not giving that chance of McMahon, Domi, and Nylander some chance to learn each other and, you know, kind of exist together on the ice, like the wheels on McMahon. Holy man, that guy gets up and down the ice like he is so fast and so speedy and good quick feet. You've got Nylander, who's got tons and tons of skill. You got Max Domi, who's just a great setup guy and a great, getting into the mixer and causing some grief, and he's hard to play against. Why not give that line 5-10 games? Why not give them 10% of the season to mesh and gel? And they got changed. They changed it quickly. And you and I have talked about Max, and he hasn't taken a lot of shots. And, look, I get it, but you got to give these guys some time to mesh, especially when you look at what they've done already without having that time together.
Well, if they can give the power play 10 games to do nothing, why can they not give the lines the same kind of thing, 10 games? Let's do something. You're right, because they had a name for it, the BMW line. It looked fantastic. Oh, and the thing that with that line, what that did was it gave us a great first line, a great second line, and our third line was great as well. So now what's happening is the first and second lines are playing pretty good together, but that third line and that fourth line are struggling. But a lot of times it's the continuous change in and out, and I think that we haven't found our way because, Nick Robertson, super fast guy, great release. The only way he's going to make a difference on your team, and I hate to say this, if he's on the first or second line. He's on that third line or on that fourth line, getting anywhere from 8 to 11 minutes a night. That's not going to work for him. So the only way it's going to work for Robertson, and Robertson, I'm sorry, buddy, you got to go. You got to go to another team. You need a new start. And, I wish you nothing but good luck in the Western Conference because you're not going to be in our conference.
Here's my weekly installment of, good God, the Leafs need some bench strength in the minors. And the Leafs get the earliest pick. That's the condition of the draft pick. And a 6th. So, hey, a couple of draft picks is good. Is it the right compensation for Liljegren? Probably. Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with, you got 2 picks and a player who can kind of slot in and out of the lineup if you need somebody, if somebody's injured. I got no complaints about it. And unfortunately, as much as I like Nick Robertson, he's got to go play somewhere else. And he's got to go play on a team that needs a top 1 or 2 line. They need that speedster, that guy that can score. And unfortunately, it's not with Toronto. There's no room for him here. And I think there might be are they holding on to him for an emotional reason? Because if somebody goes down, if Marner goes down or Nylander goes down, he kind of slots right in there. Is that the reason they're holding on to this guy instead of trading for the asset?
Well, it's almost like sometimes it's like your children, right? You have your children, you want to work with them. So these guys right here, they've been drafted from the beginning. So there's only a certain amount of players that the Leafs have done this that haven't been first rounders, right? So if you look at Matthews first overall, you look at Marner, top 10 pick. Nylander, number 8 overall. Those players, for the most part, are going to be a player that's going to make it. Robertson, is somebody who they want to work with. They want to show that they were smart as a draft team and work their way through it. Liljegren was another guy. He was 17th overall. But it's almost like if you look at the 2022 draft of the Leafs, not one of them is in the NHL or even made it. So what we got to start doing is, like Rick's saying, we need to stockpile these draft picks. And as a Leaf fan, of course, we want to see winning, and we want to see winning right now. But the other thing is we understand as managers is that we know that after Matthews and Marner and Nylander are gone, what's going to be there? Rick and I are going to play? Like, come on. They need to start filling that cupboard, like Rick is saying. And what was it, Rick? We have like the 22nd overall ranking of drafts or draft capital kind of thing that's sitting back there in the
Yeah,
in the minor leagues.
ranked number 21. So we're the 21st team in terms of like prospect depth and potential, which is not, again, not a winning recipe. And unless you plan on trading in that prospect potential, which teams are not doing, teams are not trading prospect potential today unless they're in a win now scenario. So unless you're looking at teams like Jersey, New York, Florida, Dallas, Winnipeg, some of those teams that are in win now mode and they are going to win right now, unless you're one of those teams, you're not trading away draft capital. So you've got to look at the teams like San Jose, Utah, Anaheim, and find out, what is it that they need? Do they need it? Does San Jose need a young guy like Nick Robertson who can show some of their younger guys and trade some of that capital back to Toronto? I also realize that it's almost impossible or next to impossible to make really great high-value trades today. If you can't make that high-value trade right now, then, what's the point in doing it? And you're just going to hold on to that asset. So anyways, they got to make a trade. They got to find a partner. They found a partner with San Jose, with Liljegren. I think Utah's a great partner for Robertson. He's got a little bit of maturity. He can show some of those younger guys. And, there's some guys in Utah that could slot right into that third line. And that's really what you need, is you need this great third line to be successful in hockey. They've got the top two lines. They have maybe the best top line, or one of the best top lines in all of hockey, in Matthews, Marner, and Knies. An amazing top line. They need to get going. The second line will stand up and compete with anybody. That second line can compete with absolutely anybody. Domi, Nylander, McMahon. That third line of Tavares and fill in the blanks here, Pacioretty, whoever it is. And hey, I like Pacioretty on the team. I think he helps the team get past the first round of the playoffs. He knows what it takes, but they need a couple of studs in that third and fourth line that are going to make a difference. And maybe they're first and second liners on any other team, but they're third and fourth liners on a Stanley Cup winning team.
No, for sure. And Pacioretty's really impressed me with his stick-to-itiveness going into the corners. Like, I saw some guy got smoked last night in St. Louis. My buddy and I were like, who was that? And they're like, that's Panzerati. That's what we're calling him, right? My one friend, she called him Panzerati. I go, Panzerati just smoked that guy. And he did it consistently throughout the game. So if you have JT, Panzerati, and I'm going to say it, we're going to get a call up after Robertson's gone and Yarncroft's traded. Mr. Alexander Nylander is going to come in and slot into that third line, and he's going to give a shooter aspect to it. He's a big kid. He can shoot the puck. He's an inch taller than his brother, weighs a little bit less, so he's got to work out a little bit. But if he's on that line with those two guys, I'm telling you, it's the right play to make. So, Treliving, if you're watching, and we know you are, make the deal.
Yeah, I think, and as much as like there might be an emotional attachment or a big, like, hey, some of the contracts are hard to move too. You need a team that can move a contract as well, and there's some sticky points in making some of those trades and deals, and down the road dollars and salary caps and all that kind of stuff. But I got to imagine like he's got to be burning up the text and the phone lines in the background, saying to teams, who needs this guy? What's the best deal I can get? And maybe the best deal isn't right now. Maybe the best deal isn't 15 games or 12 games into the season. Maybe the best deal is 40 games into the season, when some teams identify, wow, we need a third liner. We need a third line center. Wow, we need a somebody who's got some maturity and some depth, and they're willing to make a trade with Toronto for a stud. So, yeah.
No, I agree. The trade that they pulled off, like we talked about a little bit, it was Liljegren. A third, a six, and Matt Benning. That's exactly what we're looking for, right? Keep doing that. Wait till you find the right partner. And, he probably has a base that he needs to get to in order to pull the trigger to make the trade, right? So that's kind of what he's looking at. If someone's going to offer it up, let's do it. Because let's face it, there's no secrets on the Toronto Maple Leafs and who they want to trade and who they have to move out, because Hakanpää and Dewar, who, by the way, scored a goal last night on the Marlies, they're ready. They're on a conditioning stint. So the Marlies have 1 week off with no games. Then they have 6 more games where these guys can play. After that, the Leafs got to bring them up. So there's a bit of a balancing act. There's no surprises anymore. When a guy goes on the wire or, they try to put him down, guess what? Everybody knows. Like, I know who's on, right? So there's no surprises anymore. So you got to make these relationships and talk to these people before it happens. And I'm sure that's what happens with these GMs nowadays, for sure.
Yeah, and it's tough to talk about moving some people off the team, and people who have been like hardcore Toronto Maple Leafs, like they've worked hard for the team, and it's hard to talk about trading them because there is that emotional attachment to some players. But honestly, for the future of the team and for the best thing for this team is they've got to make some changes. They got to get that third line's got to be younger and faster. And man, Matthews needs to start lighting up that score sheet, and he does it all. Matthews does it all. He's on both sides of the puck. He's playing on, he's playing PK, and like the guy literally does it all. But we need to, again, we're only 11 games in. Man, he needs to get on the score sheet. I was
one thing that I did. Sorry, go ahead, Greg. I was going to say one thing I did want to touch on and talk about, and I don't know if we have or we really need to talk about this a little bit more, is Ryan Reeves. Guys on the fourth line, and everybody's like, all right, you're awesome. He's out there. He's hitting everybody. My buddy's going, look, he's hitting everybody. He's doing this. I go, you know who he's hitting? The other fourth line. Yeah. I don't care if he's hitting the other fourth line. Unless he's hitting one of their top 4 D-man, it's a big waste of time. And then last night, Holmberg got his hat handed to him. What was Reeves doing? Patting people on the back? I think the Leafs have 4 or 5 fights this season. Reeves has 0. What are you here for, bud? You're a great guy. You can play some great music. Everybody can cuddle. Yay, he's so good. Do what you're supposed to do, bud. Make me feel better about you being on the team. Because if you're not going to do what we brought you up here to do, then you can go with Nick Robertson, and you guys can both go to Utah and go climbing some mountains.
Ryan Reeves is an electric guy, and he gets the crowd out of their seats, and he's a fun dude, and he needs to go punch someone in the face. He needs to send a message that liberties will not be taken on this team. And look who had to fight last night. So Jake McCabe had to go fight last night. And really, it should be Ryan Reeves who's out there and just causing problems. And yeah, going around banging into the fourth liner guys, okay, it's fun to watch, but that can't be his job. That can't be what the coach is asking him to do. The job he has to be doing out there is causing problems in front of the net, causing problems with their star players, causing other teams to get out of their, like, to kind of get out of their groove and to get upset and kind of get them off their rhythm and be like, oh, is 75 on the ice? I need to watch my back. Or is 7-5 on the ice and I'm going to get him instead of going to chase the puck. And there's a really important job he's got to do there. Come on, Revo. We need you.
Yeah, exactly. We need you, buddy. Now, mind you, last night, Laurent scored. Kampf looked like he was playing in the top 2. And I can say this, that Ryan Reeves was playing a much better game than I thought he was. Getting up there, there's one of the defensemen that turned around and he saw that it was Reeves. And he was like, oh, I got this. And Reeves almost burnt him with speed. So if you're out there and you want to be a hockey player, you want to keep doing that, then you need to continue. But what we have you for, bud, is to scare these guys, to show them you can't take liberties with anybody on our team. And if you do, I'm going to punch so hard it's going to go through your head and hit your mom. That's what we need. This guy, that's what he's going to do. He's so good. Ryan Reeves, one of my absolute favorite players, super, super awesome guy, everything about him. But do what we got here. And if you can do the other stuff, that's a bonus.
It's you think a little bit about Calgary for a second, and brought on Anthony Mantha this year, and he's been a Gordie Howe special for that team, and he's all around the net, and he's moving the puck, and he's a big guy, and he's looked way more mobile and agile as a big guy than he should be. Like he's moving around the net, and people are kind of avoiding him because he's a big guy, and he's proven that hey, I've got no problem dropping the gloves.
And that's exactly what Ryan Reeves needs to do, and I know he can do it. So let's get him out there, and let's get a Revo back in the game. And by the way, the Leafs are bantering back and forth about a goal song. All I Do Is Win No Matter What is the song by DJ Khaled. Guys, it's so obvious. Let's put that song back in. Let's win some games. Let's put the goal song in. DJ Khaled, reach out. I reach out to you. I want you to reach out to me to ask for your permission. But I won't do it until you say it. And it's going to be terrible if you make me sing it, but, karaoke style. Rick, you want me to do
Oh,
all
please,
right,
God,
I won't
no.
do it.
Don't make this
I won't.
happen,
I need to practice a little more, and it's happening. But we need to get the team back in with this goal song, man.
In Calgary, every player has their own goal song.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
It's an interesting take on it. Now they've got a couple of guys that are scoring all the goals, so you kind of hear the same song over and over again. But it's interesting that each guy has their own song, and to be honest, the crowd doesn't really react too much to it. They're more excited about the goal. But I think people are starting to realize that, hey, when Rasmus Sanderson scores or Uyghur or Kadri or somebody like that, they're going to get this funky little, individualized beat. So it is kind of interesting. It's fun. I do kind of prefer, as a fan, I prefer a big pump up song. So I want something that's like, they had this one song, it was their power play song, and it was called Tsunami, and it was this kind of this slow build up into this big anthemy electronic, and it gets your feet tapping and gets you kind of excited, and that's the kind of song that I want to hear from goal songs. It's something that kind of gets me going a little bit more. Like, hey, I'm excited you scored a goal. I want to, give me that, kind of get me out of my seat, or keep me out of my seat clapping for another minute or so. And, I think that's kind of what I want. Mind you, I do want to kind of talk to some of the NHL players about that too. Are they even hearing that? Like, do you hear, if the crowd's still going after you scored? So if you score a goal, the crowd gets excited, they cheer. But if that song keeps you clapping and keeps you engaged and keeps you yelling as a fan, does that affect the players at all? That's something I want to know, and we need to talk to some players about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. I think there was a place that I worked for 10 years, and I'm not a huge fan of a certain type of music, and I don't want to say what type of music it is because there's a lot more people that like it than I do. But that type of music played in the establishment where I worked every single day, and you know what? I blocked it out, and I didn't hear it. So maybe they're blocking it out, maybe they don't hear it. But what did happen, when a really good rock song came on, I stopped it and went, oh, we're playing rock now? So maybe there's something in there that they block it out if it's not something that they like, but if it's something that they like, they probably tune in a little more.
It's so funny you mentioned that, because I said these very words yesterday. Is that Van Halen? And there was Van Halen on the radio, which is, everything else got tuned out except when Van Halen came on.
See, so that's what I'm saying, right? So maybe that's the same thing for the NHL players, but I think you're right, buddy. We definitely need to talk to them. Speaking of that, I do have a bit of a story. It's kind of embarrassing, really, for me, because I like to kind of believe that I know all about the Leafs, and I talk to my friends and family about it. Well, a place where I worked, I was on the floor, and I was the manager on duty, and we have a policy that if you're a customer and you come in and you want to use a gift card, if it's over $1, you need to have the actual physical gift card with you, simply because of security reasons for the customers, for the people that have purchased the gift cards, and there's a lot of stuff that was kind of going on. So the department came up to talk to me and said there was a customer that wanted to speak to a manager because they were going to spend anywhere from $100 to $2,000 and they had a gift card on their phone. It was an email from a well-known hockey equipment place, and
like a manufacturer.
Manufacturer. And he was showing me that he did get the email and saying that they were sending this individual the gift cards. And I looked at him right in his eye, and me on a good day, I'm 5'9.5", and I was almost standing toe-to-toe with this guy. So the other thing we need to talk about is the height and weight measurements that the NHL puts. It comes into question, and you'll find out why. And I looked at the guy eye to eye. He looked somewhat familiar, but I couldn't recognize him. And I said, listen, even if you're Austin Matthews, I could not honor the gift card. Now, mind you, I probably would if it was Austin Matthews. But anyways, I said I couldn't. But what I said to the gentleman was, listen, I understand that you're in here and you want to shop or you want to buy our stuff and you have these potential gift cards. Why don't you give me your name and your email address and phone number, and then what I can do is, and I'll give you mine, and when those gift cards come in, come back and see me. We'll credit back your Visa or MasterCard, however you paid, and then we'll put it onto the gift card for you. How's that sound? And he was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, no problem. But I was looking at him, and I only got his first name, and his name was Sam. And so I went to talk to a good friend of mine. His name's Rick. And I said to him, I go, dude, this Sam looked familiar. This is this guy. Let's find out. I think he was an NHL player. Lo and behold, the person who I said, no, I gave the Heisman to was Sam Carrick, the 2010 draft pick for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Buddy, I'm so sorry, Sam. I would have never done that in a million years. I didn't know, but I had to do that. And by the way, they have you listed at 6'1", buddy. So I think that's a little off, unless you're wearing high heel skates when you're out there, man. They do the measurements.
6'1" standing on a box.
Story.
Yeah, that's
right?
Awesome. Yeah. You had to refresh my memory about that story, but that was you were visibly upset. Like you were like,
oh,
I can't believe that happened. I can't believe I did that.
I was so embarrassed.
You were in anguish. That's the word, anguish.
Anguish is definitely the proper word for that. I was like, oh my God. So Sam, this is my apology to you. I apologize. Wow, what a dumbass I was. And now he's playing for the Rangers. And so I wish you almost all the good luck. You can go to the finals against the Leafs, but sorry, you're going to have to leave there. But Sam has rejuvenated his career. He actually went to the Stanley Cup finals with Edmonton last year. It was a big piece of why on that third and fourth line where he definitely put his neck on the line. He did a great job. So great job, Sam.
Doesn't Sam Carrick seem like one of those guys where he has got so much raw talent and just hasn't been able to dial that in just in the right spot where he is that top line guy? But the guy is just, more talent in his pinky than so many guys. It's incredible with what he can do. So anyways, best of luck to him as well.
Yeah, it was almost like someone didn't give him that chance like we're trying to give to Nick Robertson. Bye-bye, Nick Robertson.
I'd like to I'm happy to see him traded unless he starts putting in the goals that Matthews is not putting in the net. I mean, we could talk about this all day.
Yeah,
hey, let's talk about the Calgary Flames.
Well, I do want to talk to you, and I wanted to ask you a question about this, buddy, because you kind of alluded to it in one of our conversations, not online here, but we were talking about one of my favorite players of all time was Nazem Kadri, and then I was only able to see a handful of games with him in it, but in your and my conversation, you were saying it's almost like he's letting up in the defensive zone. He's going really, really hard playing offense, but when it's coming to defense, he's kind of floating a little bit. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, and my recollection of Kadri is not a back checker. So not a guy that gets after the puck in the corners, and he's not getting in the dirty areas. And he seems to be like a player of opportunity where he's in front of the net and he's calling for the puck and he wants the puck on his stick in the offensive zone. And when he gets there, he's making good shots and he's taking chances. And they're kind of surprise and sneaky goals that I've seen from him so far this year. But I don't know if he knows that there's ice beyond the defensive blue line. There's a whole third of the ice back there, and a guy with that kind of skill and talent definitely needs to be in there causing some problems and getting the puck. And he's had some suspension problems, and he's a bit salty. He can get salty and get upset, and he can make some emotional decisions and start hacking and whacking at people. And obviously that's not something he wants to do. And maybe that's not why he's not getting down in those dirty areas. Fun to watch when he's got the puck on his stick and the crowd gets excited. But man, he's got to play both sides of that ice. And unfortunately, it's not his game today. There's a bunch of guys on the team that are looking great that are doing that. This is my weekly installment of Mackenzie Weegar for the Four Nations Cup. This guy is...
When are you guys getting married? You and Weegar.
Yeah, soon. It's very, very soon. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll let my wife know. But it's this guy. The smarts on this guy, and it's not when he's got the puck on his stick, he's making the right moves. Obviously, he's an NHLer. He's probably going to do that. It's when the puck is not on his stick and positioning himself and putting himself in the right spot and getting in the lanes and causing some problems and being a physical presence. He punched Mark Scheifele in the face a couple of times when they were playing in Winnipeg. What a tough loss for Calgary, by the way. Fluky goal off the glass, off the back of Wolfen in the net to put them ahead 4-3. But he was, he had no problem, not on the score sheet, but he was on the score sheet with a couple of PIMs because he had no problem punching Mark Scheifele in the face, who got kind of whiny. Weegar was in his pocket, and he just got frustrated, and Weegar was having none of it. And Scheifele's a big guy. Scheifele's bigger than Weegar is, and he had no time for him, and off they went to the box. And this is a good segue because I want to talk about the reffing this year, and reffing and linesmen this year. So the reffing has not been stellar. There's a bunch of minor league refs up in the NHL right now, and the calls are not great. And man, did the refs work hard to keep Winnipeg undefeated in that Calgary game. That's not my beef. My beef is the general injustices that are happening on both sides of the puck, but it's in per game. So if it's Toronto and St. Louis, the calls are going for St. Louis. There's no flow. There's no makeup. There's no balancing of the calls. And I want to send a message out to the linesmen of the NHL. Your job is to drop the puck at the face-off circle. This is not about you. Drop the puck. Stop faking the puck and stop drop the puck. Oh, it wasn't perfect. We're going to just drop the puck. That's all you have to do. One linesman hands you puck and you bring the guys to the center of the circle and put the puck on the ice. That's it. This is not about you. This is not about the linesman show. This is about, let's get the game going again. Let's get everybody playing again. Man, the amount of times I've seen linesmen just screwing around and throwing people out and false starting. It's good God, man. What are you doing? Put the puck on the ice so we can watch hockey again.
No, I totally agree, buddy. And you bringing up the refs and the injustices is crazy. And again, as an emotional fan for your team, a lot of times you pick up on what's happening to your own team. And, I understand that. But, again, you got to make sure that the things are going both ways. But I agree with you. It seems like it's not going both ways. Now, bringing up penalties and such, I know that back in the day, there used to be a thing called prohibition, where people weren't allowed to drink alcohol. Guess what? Rules change, right? So now they actually sell it in stores. So let's talk about a couple different penalties that we should really look at and revisit these calls, these penalties. One is what I like to call the Hextall penalty, delay a game. Oh my gosh. The reason why this penalty came about is because Hextall was such a great puck handler. If his team was having troubles, he would look at it and shoot the puck out of the arena. Then there'd be a stoppage. His players could rest. They would make a change. Guess what? That was in the 80s, guys. When the puck accidentally goes out, let's not call it a penalty anymore. It's just whatever. We got extra pucks now. We just don't have one puck. Let's throw in a new puck and get going, right? Waste of time. So stupid. Makes no sense. The other penalty that we definitely need to revisit is high sticking. Come on. Who's making up these different rules? Like, I know I talked about it last week about Nylander obviously taking Pasternak's head off because he got a double minor. But come on, there was no blood. They're saying that if there's blood, it's a 4-minute. If it was intentional, it's 5-minute. But it's all up to interpretation. So guess what? If you're skating around and you're a big boy and you got a helmet on and you get hit in the head with a stick, so be it. Let's move on. It's not stopping the play. It's not slowing anything down. Let's play frickin' hockey. I know that if I was out there and I accidentally got hit in the head playing road hockey, that's it. You move on. So those are two rules I think we definitely need to look at. Let's look at high sticking. Come on, unless you come at a guy and you tomahawk a guy, it's not a penalty anymore, whatever. Hockey players wear it as a badge. If they're missing teeth, they're like, that's because I'm a hockey player. Well, no, it's not, because you were a little bitch in the corner crying that you got hit in the face. They're like soccer players. My God, you get hit, you see them get shot, it's ridiculous. Get rid of the high sticking unless you totally injured a guy on purpose. Other than that, suck it up, Buttercup. Let's move on. What do you think?
I agree with you on the delay of game. I think the delay of game is definitely a penalty that needs to go away. It is why? What is the point? And is that delay of game really causing a major delay of game? And most times, I would say, 9.99999% of the time, it's not intentional. It's hey, I'm rimming the puck out. I flick it out of it hit the stanchion, off it goes over the glass. Good God, it's not intentional. Like, there is the rare time when it's called and it's intentional, and you can see somebody's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fire this thing into the crowd because, we need a break." It's not a penalty that should be called as frequently as it does. I 100% agree with you. Abolish that penalty, put it away, or put your whistle in your pocket. Again, like, it could make it a rule, but keep it in your pocket. Don't call it when it happens. As for high sticking, I don't know. I kind of disagree with you. I think, having a high sticking penalty is important, and I think there is got to be some control of your stick, and I would hate to see what would happen if we took the high sticking penalty away. I'm definitely with you when there comes to some kind of modification or review of that penalty, and I think I'll happily sit on the committee that makes some of these decisions, Gary Bettman. So if you need me to come, Jason and I can definitely come sit on the committee, and we'll advise you the right way, which penalties to keep and go. I think high sticking's got to stay. Again, it's got to be, the refs got to have their whistle in their pocket on ones like, if you're battling in front of the net and both sticks come up and two guys get hit in the head and you got a helmet on, that's not a penalty. Like, that is just warfare in front of the net or behind the net. Or, if you go around and you have, if you intentionally two-hand a guy on the top of the head, obviously that's a penalty. And a 27-game suspension or whatever that suspension is going to be.
Yeah.
But again, there's...
Well, I was going to say, you could see they're slowly starting to evolve that penalty, because guess what? If it's a follow-through, it's not a penalty. So they're already talking to themselves about it like, yeah, this penalty is kind of stupid, guys. Like, come on, we're giving these guys a follow-through a shot. He gets hit in the face on a follow-through. That's not a penalty. But if a guy's not looking, he's turning, and as he's turning, the other guy skates into your stick, that's a penalty. Or if you happen to be lying on the ice and the guy, comes across and hits you in the face, that's not high sticking. That's as low as your stick can go. So what's going on? It's about intention to hurt and being a dumbass. So if people are doing it out there, they're going to get a penalty, they're going to be gone. The high sticking thing and the acting of, this isn't, again, sorry for the soccer fans out there, but it's not soccer. In soccer, it's an art of the dive. These guys do it so well. It's unbelievable. You know what I mean? It really, truly is. That's not hockey. Hockey's about, like you said, warfare, getting in there. Sometimes you're going to get hit. Sometimes you're going to lose a tooth. Sometimes you're going to do these things. But let's move on. Like I said, they're going to evolve through it. I think that's one that should change. And what about the other one I want to talk about briefly is what's happened with the trapezoid? Can the goalie touch it? Can he not touch it? If he has 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, what's going on? Get rid of that. Have a goalie come out. If he's a good puck handler, then he's a good puck handler. It was stopped there because people like Martin Brodeur was too good, and then the other terms couldn't get up there, and this is not fair because you got a good player. Get rid of it. Get rid of the trapezoid. If you're a crazy goalie and you want to go out there and touch a puck, go ahead, but guess what? We're going to smoke you. Let's get rid of the trapezoid, too.
I hate the trapezoid. That's maybe one of my least favorite rules, and I played hockey in the day where you protected your goalie, and the goalie got out of the net, and somebody took a run at the goalie, you took a run at that player, and you taught them, like, that's not going to happen to you again, or you're going to get punched in the face. So I'm with you 100% on the trapezoid, too. I think there's another penalty that's not being called, that's clearly written in the rule book, and you see it called every now and then, but cross-checking. Cross-checking used to be, like, it was a heavily enforced rule, and today I think cross-checking is just part of the league. So people get cross-checked, and there's no recourse for that. You're going to get chopped in the back of in your back, in front of the net, behind the net, anywhere kind of around the puck, and there is no penalty called. I think I've seen one cross-checking penalty called this season, and it was pretty blatant. Like, it was a bad one, and it was off the puck, and it could have been interference, it could have been cross-check, it could have been a lot of things, but that's one that the refs kind of put their whistle away, and, like they should, delay a game, put your whistle in your pocket, don't bring it out. Cross-checking, again, if it's warfare in front of the net, and that's really what it is. Like, when you're battling in front of the net, and you are working for a position, and you are, you're really taking a beating in there and giving somebody a beating in front of the net, like, that's, I think you put your whistle in your pocket, and most things are allowed to go, and even the funny business after the whistle, like, a couple guys get, there's some shots exchanged and stuff like that. And the good refs will watch it and watch the flow of the game and keep their whistle in their pocket in those moments.
No, for sure. And then sometimes when they don't make certain calls, like the even up call, they call one guy, then the game gets out of hand. Like St. Louis and Toronto was starting to get out of hand because they were just calling the weird injustices against the Leafs. I'm like, come on, you guys, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, where's the balance?
If there's a guy fighting, then take them both, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't be dumb. But again, the players are out there, they make money playing this game. They're not out there to intentionally injure each other. That's not their intention at all. If you talk to any of them except for maybe one guy, and we won't talk about that one guy right now, nobody's out there to injure anyone. Nobody. Right? It's like, it's warfare. Like you said, they're out there, they're getting into it. It's accidental for the most part. But there's those dirty players that do it on purpose, and especially where everything changes is in the playoffs. And that's what I wanted to kind of say with Kadri. Maybe Kadri, he's a different player when he goes into the playoffs where he eats puck, he plays defense, he does all these things. And I think he just had a book that came out recently that talks about his time in Toronto, what he did, and he kind of let the management of Toronto know what was going on. And the guy was an emotional guy, and I love Kadri. I'd have him back any day. Tree, if you want to get him back, let's get Kadri back. Second line center, third line center, amazing player. Puts everybody else ahead of him. He would have fought everybody out there. He'd be fighting Ryan Reeves on his own team to help his team. Like, come on. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, that's some of my feelings about calls and stuff like that and rules that are in the NHL. I think that definitely need to change.
Hey, I think we're getting to the point where we're starting to run out of time, but I want to talk about social media for a second. So we are now active on social media. So we have a TikTok channel. It is at the Hockey Huddle Pod. It's a period between each word there. We're on YouTube at the Hockey Huddle Podcast, at Instagram, or on Instagram at the Hockey Huddle Podcast with underscores in between the words. So we're going to be posting some videos. Definitely want to hear from you. Like, we want to hear from the fans, and we want to hear some interaction. If there's a topic you want to chat about with us, or a topic you want us to talk about, we definitely want to hear about that. This is hockey fans talking about hockey with fans, and we definitely want to hear that feedback. Jason and I can talk about hockey all day long, and we can come up with all these topics, but we definitely want to hear your topics, and we definitely want to talk about them as well. So engage with us. The full episodes of the podcast are going to be up on YouTube. I think the episode 1 and 2 are already up there now. We've got a few clips from episode 3 up on TikTok, and right now we're posting the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean every Monday at 6 a.m. So those podcasts are scheduled and show up at those times. and then you just kind of watch afterwards for those clips and the quick takes and stuff like that after the fact. So definitely engage with us. Jason's shirt's looking pretty amazing. I love that sweater, and maybe there's something in the future. Maybe we're telegraphing what could be to come here. So we'll share some more information with you as we know a little bit more as well. Any parting words before we wrap this up, Jay?
No, I just want to say thanks to Barry again for coming on. And the Leafs are playing Minnesota tonight. It's an early game at 6 p.m., so go Leafs go.
Yeah, go Leafs go. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Hockey Huddle and hanging out with us through all the slap shots, big hits, and highlight reel plays. Whether you're a diehard fan or just getting into the game, we appreciate you being part of our hockey family. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and hit us up on social media with your thoughts, questions, or hot takes. We love hearing from you. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice, your head up, and we'll catch you in the next period. Take care, everyone.